How powerful is Cox Internet? Powerful enough to let your band members in Vegas, Phoenix, and Rhode Island jam like you're all in the same garage. Get Cox Internet powered by fiber with America's fastest download speeds. It's internet built for tomorrow, today. Cox, always building better. Cox Internet is connected to the premises via coaxial connection. Speeds vary and are not guaranteed. Cox terms and other restrictions may apply. Analysis by Ookla Speed Test Intelligence Data. Fixed median download speeds. US Q3 2023.
When the whole family comes together to watch the game, nobody wants to miss a second of the action to run to the grocery store. With Instacart, you can get all your weekly groceries in as fast as an hour. Less time shopping means more game time. Let's go. Visit instacart.com to get free delivery on your first 3 orders. Offer valid for a limited time. $10 minimum per order. Additional terms apply.
On 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
I don't know feel.
Not sure that I do.
Trying to get Taylor Eldrige from the Wichita Eagle on to talk about the Shockers. Baseball team opened with a bang, scoring all kinds of runs in their first 2 games down in Little Rock. Swamped Little Rock.
I enjoyed that.
16-5 and something to nothing.
18-5, 14 to nothing.
And then lost game 3.
Yeah, 5-4, something like that.
Yeah, 5-4.
I was
You
told
don't want
that
to lose game 3.
I was told that the pitcher for Little Rock in game 1 led the nation in ERA last year.
They jumped all over him. Lasted 2 innings. Taylor Eldrige with us. Taylor, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me back on.
Well, we talked to the higher ups and they said go ahead and do it. So here you are.
I appreciate it.
We talked to you. We talked to you fairly recently about the Shockers, and I don't know what can be added to our state of confusion, but still this team is not showing us a whole lot, and I don't know what to think about it. I thought the game the other day at Charlotte, they lacked energy at the start, and then kind of wove their way into that game a little bit, played with a little more effort and energy, but they weren't going to come back after digging that deep of a hole. There's just such a fine line for this basketball team, and they've really not been able to figure that out all season, have they?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the pieces that they're working with, just not a lot of, not a high margin for error. They're just trying to thread the needle, and because of the lack of shooting, they're just playing, a different game than a lot of teams because, the floor has shrunk for them so much because, defenses don't have to pay attention to really anybody other than Colby Rogers on the perimeter. So that's really makes life difficult for them. And then when you throw in the unforced turnovers and the missed free throws, like that stuff is just killer. So, yeah, I mean, they're definitely better than their record, more talent than their record. But, yeah, I mean, when you come up short and, unforced errors, so often, it's not going to lead itself to very many wins. So, the schedule down the stretch, they could turn this thing around. They play 4 of the bottom, I think 5 or 6 teams, 3 of them at home. So, there is a glimmer of hope, to get some momentum before conference tournament. But at this point, it's hard to imagine this team, winning 4 games in 4 days or the impossible 5 in 5 days at the conference tournament.
So I was on with Duda yesterday, and we were just talking about it. And I know that Bijan Cortez is on the team, and he's starting, but they basically went through a recruiting cycle and did not end up with a point guard. They offered several transfers and went through the portal and everything like that. And again, I know they have T.J. Williams coming in, but is it possible that they won't solve this problem going into next year? I mean, could they strike out again?
I mean, it's tough to know. I mean, it's, a lot of the recruiting isn't done until the transfer portal season. So you just have to wait and see, what opportunities come up. A lot of that stuff we won't find out until after the season. So it'll be interesting to me to see, what this coaching staff does. And some of that's obviously out of their control. Players can obviously, leave in the portal if they like. But just to see how much roster turnover there is, because a lot of these guys can come back. Jacob Germany, who's not in the rotation, Dalen Original, they're the two that are for sure gone. No more eligibility, but everybody else can come back. So how much roster turnover happens with this team, that's going to be something interesting to monitor to see if WSU tries to run it back with this group and just rely on, that experience is going to help them turn the corner. Because, you look at the 2-11 record is obviously, pretty unimaginable for WSU fans. But, I think 7 of those losses, they've been in one possession games, the last 3 minutes. So they're last 3 or 4 minutes. So they're not far away, but from the days of getting to NCAA tournaments and at large bids and competing for championships, those days are they feel like a long distant memory at this point. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with this roster at the end of the season for sure.
Talking with Taylor Eldrige from the Wichita Eagle, you mentioned it, really only 2 players that we know won't be back next year, everybody else with eligibility. How do you walk that tightrope if you're Paul Mills and you have this kind of – how does that function with this many players who could return? The transfer portal is available for players to come in and go out. How has the transfer portal changed the way coaches approach their rosters? That's way too general of a question, but you know what I'm getting at. How ruthless can a coach be?
Yeah, it's something that I'd be curious to ask Paul Mills about, because when he was building Oral Roberts, the transfer portal was a thing, but it wasn't as prominent as it is today. And NIL has obviously changed the game as well. So, how much do those two things impact how you can build a roster? Because, if this was 6-7 years ago, you could say, okay, we have a roster. A lot of these guys will be back next year. Well, in 2024, that's just not anywhere close to a certainty. Even if you want all these guys back, some of them could leave for other opportunities, if they're not satisfied in Wichita. But I think the big part for WSU, I think they have players who can contribute to winning, but right now, their roles, they're overextended in their roles. I think Xavier Bell could be a really nice piece for a team, but when you're asking him to do this much, then he gets overstretched. Harlan Beverly, the same thing. Colby Rogers, this is one of the best 3-point shooters in the conference, but because he literally has no one else to space the floor with them, every time he comes off a ball screen, he's looking at 3-4 defenders and has no spacing, no real playmaker to, they just very rarely are able to get him catch and shoot looks, off of screens and stuff like that. So, he could be really good. Quincy Ballard could be dominant, I think, if you had a point guard and spacing, or a point guard to find him on lobs and rolls and the spacing to improve that. So I think they have pieces, but you're going to have to bring in, I think if they're going to turn the corner next year and be much more competitive and start winning games, you're definitely going to have to bring in some different pieces. And then the question is, okay, do those guys, Harlan Beverly, Xavier Bell, Kenny Poto, guys like that, do they accept, different roles next season? So it's definitely a complicated thing, and it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But I think I would expect WSU to be active in the portal, but we'll just have to see, after the season, just how active they'll be, depending on how many players, potentially leave, and then just what's available in the portal too.
So how badly do you think the American needs anybody but Florida Atlantic to win the conference tournament? And, Florida Atlantic hasn't come in and been this powerhouse that we expected, but it seems like they're still holding on to an at-large bid, maybe barely. But I don't know that Charlotte is, or South Florida. These teams are ranked in the 100s in KenPom. SMU's kind of high up there, but I'm not really sure about their resume. Is it a two-bid league, just if any chance Florida Atlantic doesn't win it?
Yeah, I think it just depends on how this final stretch, 5 games left. FAU has a pretty challenging schedule. They play SMU, Memphis, North Texas, I think Memphis again. So, those are four, the better teams in the conference. So, if they take 2 or 3 more losses, that at-large bid suddenly becomes, a lot tighter. And maybe it does become a one-bid league. It feels like this happens almost every year, with the American, where they come in, they're hoping for 3. And then they feel you start a conference play, okay, we got 2, and then they just, kind of cannibalize each other and knock each other down. And then at the very end, it becomes a 1 or 2 bid league. So that's what it's looking like right now. I mean, South Florida and Charlotte are, in conference play. They have proven themselves to be the 2 best teams in this conference. So it's pretty interesting to see because, no one saw this coming from either of those 2 squads. And I think, going forward, I think if the American wants to win, you need someone other than Florida Atlantic. But it's not like they can mess around and lose in the first round. I think you almost have to, get them to Sunday, get them to that championship game, and then have, Charlotte, South Florida, Memphis, whoever win that championship game to get 2 in. But, yeah, it's they thought they could get, 3, maybe 4 in at the start of the season. And now it's looking like, 1 for sure, and then 2 maybe if there's a different conference tournament champion.
Taylor Eldrige with us. I want to ask you about baseball in a minute, but I was curious to see the comments from Rick Pitino that he's never had a less enjoyable season coaching. Penny Hardaway, who's beside himself that he can't get his players at Memphis to compete harder, stronger. Is this a concern across college basketball, or are these isolated cases?
Man, I think it's you look at the increase in the transfer portal, and those teams are 2 teams that were thrown together in the portal, and I think that's kind of the risk that you run if you're trying to make it work for one season. And Wichita State's kind of a blend. They have a handful of returners back from the program last season. Then you mix in some transfers. But I think that's the concern for coaches everywhere. Is that kind of what we were talking about earlier. The team building aspect has changed so much in college basketball. Gone are the days where you could rely on bringing in a good freshman class and then just building them up through the years. And then sprinkling in, maybe you get a grad transfer 1 year or a JUCO guy. Now it's, you're bringing in 4, 5, 6 portal guys every year. It's hard to get those guys to come together, hard to get the chemistry going. So I think that is a concern across the country with just how teams are being built in modern day college basketball now.
Final moments here with Taylor Eldrige. I do want to talk a little bit about baseball. They went to Little Rock, knocked the cover off the ball, scored 36 runs in those 3 games. They have, 7 guys with an OPS over 1,000 after those 3 games. They're in Jacksonville, Florida this week to play Virginia, Auburn, and Iowa. Virginia and Iowa both ranked in the top 20. This will be an interesting early season test for them, won't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's I think WSU, they go into this thinking they have nothing to lose. They're going to be the underdog in all 3 of those games. And, if they get just 1 win, that would be a nice – it's kind of like, Shocker softball last weekend. They went into a very similar tournament against nationally ranked teams. They came away with 1 win, and they felt great about it. So I think baseball is kind of in the same situation. Obviously that opening series was very encouraging, for the Brian Green era to start with, to win 32-5, the first 2 days. And, they almost had that 3rd one for the sweep. But I think they're going into it with the same mindset where, they're the underdogs. We can play loose, play free, and let's see what happens. So, I think if they just come away with a win from that, they'll be feeling good.
Taylor, we appreciate it. You're on the golf course today. This is the day you should be out there.
No golf. We're going the rest of the week, though. Don't worry. We'll be out there.
There you go. Thank you, Taylor.
All right. Thank you.
How powerful is Cox Internet? Powerful enough to let your band members in Vegas, Phoenix, and Rhode Island jam like you're all in the same garage. Get Cox Internet powered by fiber with America's fastest download speeds. It's internet built for tomorrow, today. Cox, always building better. Cox Internet is connected to the premises via coaxial connection. Speeds vary and are not guaranteed. Cox terms and other restrictions may apply. Analysis by Ookla of Speed Test Intelligence Data. Fixed median download speeds. US Q3 2023.
Odyssey celebrates Black History Month this February on the free Odyssey app with the music celebrating the best Black artists. Download the free Odyssey app and search Black Icons and listen to the ultimate in Black excellence. John Coltrane, Aretha Franklin, Prince, Beyonce, and more. Or listen to live stations from across the U.S. representing communities celebrating the culture this month and all year long. It's all on the free Odyssey app. That's AUDACY. Download it today.